Well, thank you. Then I look at the clock here. I think we move on to the second paper with two authors. Both of them are here. So Krashina and Helga, are you both presenting? You're okay. That answers the question. At least you start.
It's both of us.
Okay.
Krashna's going to start.
Yeah, so I'll start, and then Helga will take over from me. Okay, so my name is Wiejak-Roy, and I will be presenting today with Helga. I'm a senior lecturer at the University of the West of England in the Architecture and Built Environment Department, responsible for the real estate master's programs, especially focusing on distance learning students. So this case study showcases our experience on the real estate, finance and investment MSc module. And under normal circumstances, this is a residential module for both distance learning and attending students, which is delivered in an executive style intensive block environment in partnership with the industry. And this module builds on all previous modules and allows students to integrate their learning in property analysis, in valuation, development, and in investment. And it uses a case study method to teach practicalities of property finance and strategic decision-making when investing into an asset. And we use a very, what I say, ugly asset for this. And while sharing the latest industry insights in this block week format, we try to replicate as much as possible the real life stress and pressures which they would face once they become professionals. So this module is very demanding, and students work in small teams from early morning till midnight for 5 days. However, it delivers a very strong sense of achievement, which our students value the most on this module. So as usual, our usual plan was to kick off the module in January, and for about 2 months let students to study independently. And during this period, on an ad hoc basis, we would catch up with the students and give them also prompts so that they don't procrastinate with their self-study. For the 2020 block week, we scheduled the start for the 30th of March. And the block week would normally start with a short multiple choice test, which ensures that students are ready for the intense experience. And then the block week would finish with teams pitching for funding for a development project for the subject property. And that pitch would be done as investment presentations, followed by detailed questions from professionals from the industry. And in the past, we worked with Royal Bank of Scotland, Lloyds Bank, CBRE, JLL, and alike. And then students would 3 weeks later submit a proper investment memorandum as a report. So as you can imagine, not much went as planned. By the end of January, when we'd seen the first cases in the UK, we started sort of like light what-if discussions. And on the 10th of February, we actually reconfirmed with all guest speakers that everything was fine. Then on the 28th of February, we checked all students' coordinates, and except one, where they were all based in the UK. And however, there were few international students considering leaving the UK. So seeing the situation on the 10th of March, we agreed on contingency plans, and we concluded that the key speakers from the industry could not participate because of the COVID-related unexpected work commitments. So between the 10th and 15th of March, we considered a number of scenarios ranging from completely cancelling or postponing the block week to moving everything online. And on the 16th morning, we made a final call. And then immediately after, we sent a very long email to students communicating the details of the new plan, the schedule when more details would be published, and a request to tell us if they were fit and ready for the block week. And that evening, Boris Johnson announced a ban on non-essential travel. And 2 days later, the university went all online. So In 10 days, we redesigned all learning materials. And then on the 26th morning, we sent very detailed instructions for the whole week. On the 26th night, the UK lockdown started. So again, we were ahead. During that time, we communicated with each student individually and agreed on the optimal protocol. This triggered a plan for a second block week for those students who were in quarantine in their home countries. So by the 8th of April, all of these students have reached their final destinations. And for them, we mutually agreed for the second block week to start on the 20th of April. And then we agreed separate new assessment dates for them. So you probably would ask yourself a question: how did we manage to deal with this situation? So for us, the students' readiness and the fitness to study was most critical. And for me personally, it meant that in this stressful time, they had to be reasonably healthy in body and mind. And it was very important to have a reassurance from them being in safe places, surrounded by family or friends. So to get to know this, we traced all students' locations and asked them when and where they were planning to move for the start of at the start of the lockdown. And based on that, we established who would be able to do the block week as planned and who would need an alternative solution. We ended up with 3 students unable to do the block week because of the quarantine, and 1 student, due to work commitments, decided to postpone the module and is doing the module this year. So with the guest speakers no longer available, we put together a team of UE subject matter experts to deliver short and very focused sessions. And we also contacted people who I call program friends from the industry. And so we engaged a developer, a real estate banker, and an investment advisor to help us deliver everything. So seeing what was about to happen in the economy, we decided also to increase our teaching in particular areas. And that was low and negative growth and low interest rate regime, market failure and the role of the regulator, especially for the financial market, dealing with financial distress, and also dealing with new green finance challenges. And we did this through short case studies, real life examples, short exercises, and quite a lot of discussions. As much as possible, we drew parallels to the GFC, and we've shown to the students in which areas the market now has become more resilient, and in each area, in which dimensions the market is now more fragile. So Helga, over to you.
Excellent, thank you. So we started looking at what content we needed to change and how we were going to, do this very intensive teaching experience for the students. So we needed to change some of the content more than we needed other things. For example, the reading materials needed very little because they were already available online, as these are partly distance learning students. So we didn't need to change much there. However, one of the biggest problems we had was the property inspection. It needed to become a virtual inspection, but we were not able to enter the actual building so to film it. So we had to review all the photos and all our students' photographs from the previous year. We assembled that in a really long PowerPoint presentation, and then we recorded a talk-through using the photos, Google Maps, and various outside views of the property and the surrounding areas. And under the circumstances, it was the closest to the authentic experience we could get. We also used this opportunity to discuss the newly implemented RICS guidelines on inspections. The lecturers started pre-recording their sessions, and we uploaded that to our lecture capture system as well. Learning activities such as exercises and discussions also had to be adapted to online delivery. For example, rather than using temporary breakout groups throughout the day, we set each group up with their own virtual classroom so that they could meet any time and work together during the week. And finally, we needed to do some initial training for anyone who wasn't used to using our webinar system, especially the external lecturers, to make sure that they felt comfortable using the technology that we were all suddenly imposing.
Yeah, So let's talk about assessments and feedback. So under normal circumstances, the week would have started with a live invigilated computer-based MCQ test. And for remote proctoring purposes, we used webinar rooms where the students were screen sharing. And we did build in significantly more randomization of both questions and answers. And for feedback, we really didn't have to do much because it was anyway a computer-based test, so that was easy. The group presentations had to move all online, and we agreed with the students to record the presentations for both quality assurance purposes and also as reference for detailed feedback. And very quickly, so within 4 days, each student received a personalized feedback, including advised how to produce a solid investment memorandum. And students were also encouraged to book one-to-one appointments to discuss the feedback and their next steps. For the investment memorandum, we didn't need to change anything, as it was anyway an online submission. And as usual, the feedback consisted of an annotated Word document and annotated Excel calculations and a brief commentary on the key strengths and weaknesses of the work. And however, this time we also added some more transferable feedback students could use for their dissertations and for the future professional work. And again, we encourage them to book one-to-one appointments to give more advice for the rest of their studies. I guess because the written feedback was very well structured, there were very few students needing one-to-one sessions. But the very fact of reinforcing, offering them this opportunity gave them much more peace of mind, so badly needed during that period.
So as everything, yeah, as everything was really uncertain, we decided to have multiple backup plans. With very clear message to the student: you need to prioritize your health, your well-being, your family. If you had any problems, we had created a backup plan for the second block run that they could roll over to if they needed to. We were aware of technological issues due to surge in demand for online platform use. So we had multiple platforms on standby and told the students in advance to install Skype for Business, for example. They were already using WhatsApp, and we even resorted to having a plan if we needed to do this by the good old-fashioned telephone. As it happened, we actually ran through the entire week without needing that. So, but the students were already using WhatsApp, so it was mostly using Collaborate and WhatsApp that we got through the week. As for the learning materials, we packaged every day into a zip file and asked our students to download these in advance, just in case that there were technical problems on the day. We lined up extra backup speakers available on standby, which gave us peace of mind. However, in hindsight, there was something we completely forgot to think about, and that was a backup for Grashina. On reflection, it was a huge mistake and should have been managed, and we definitely will do that in the future. We were able to stick to the original planned deadlines for the main cohort, and we knew the deadlines for the second round that was our backup plan for the cohort.
2 more minutes.
Thank you.
So within minutes from the start, our students have proven to be ready and fit for the challenge, and they quickly understood that it was a safe environment to go out of their comfort zone. So they had clear expectations. So on a few occasions, we struggled a bit to stick to the exact timing. But that was usually because of the discussions. As usual, some students needed a bit of a push on the group work, but again, we managed this. Being a chartered surveyor myself, I didn't feel comfortable with the virtual inspection. And if I had a chance, I would have at least recorded the video. And however, I felt at the end that everything went reasonably well. So you can see on this graph, the module feedback, we were quite a bit under pressure to perform. You can see the first 2 years, and however, it all went well. So it was a relief for us. Now we've learned quite a bit from this. And so we decided to design all teaching materials in a way that could be used irrespective of the circumstances, and provide as much as possible interactive experience. making strategic decisions on ad hoc or permanent group teams, recording mini lectures with actions, and also we tested some approaches on smaller cohorts, and then we actually decided also that what was very important for us, that we needed plenty of backup plans. Through this, we also learned that the MCQ tests could have been done just before the block week to reduce the day one stress. And we decided that we would allow more flexible time for discussions. Helga?
Yeah, so the dates for next year, we've set them for the 22nd to the 26th of March. It's before Easter, before the school holidays, and we're now working on the final backups for all speakers, this time including Rashna. As a backup for the site inspection, we are going to film the inspection prior to the block week, just in case, and making sure that we put it into sort of an H5P for interactive video to make it a virtual walkthrough, if you like, with hotspots that students can look at further explanations. So no matter what, we're ready for next year.
Yeah, so that wouldn't be possible without everyone's effort. So at all academics, the learning technologists, and also our good friends from the industry and our good leaders. So thank you.
Thank you. There's a question by Karen.
Hi, was this all expensive to do? Because it sounds like you got involved in a lot of different technology and had to sort of combine things. You might have had to make the technology more appropriate to your uses. So was it expensive?
I answer that one. We actually ended up using only technology we already had in place at UE. So we used Collaborate, which is our new normal webinar platform. We just used it slightly differently. We thought of workarounds. So rather than using breakout groups, which can be a bit fragile at times, especially if the system is under a lot of demand, we set up extra rooms for students. So it was more about explaining really carefully how the students were going to use the technology. And I think, you know, how were we going to use the recorded sessions, and how having the schedule so that we kept switching from activity to activity worked really well. But we didn't actually use any technology this time around that we didn't have in-house.
But the thing is, somebody must have known that the technology could deliver this, correct?
Yeah, that was my job.
So I mean,
that's what I do day to day. So
have prior knowledge.
Yes, yeah. So that's we do have a team of learning technologists, and I specifically work with Grashnia on sort of delivering the distance learning part of these modules, because UE is not usually a distance learning university, so it is specialized knowledge. But we were all in place as well.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? Well, may I add one? Well, this is a very demanding approach in terms of planning for a difficult class. But the question that I have is, does that, in your experience, scale to other courses as well? So could this approach be used by other courses in the university as a model?
I'll take this one. Yes, and we, in fact, so we always had some block week modules within the department, or some maybe like 2-3 days intensive modules where students would work on some real life examples. So this probably showcased to us and to other colleagues that it can be done really well, even if it is done virtually. I think what we have probably learned through this as well is that it is not just about our commitment, it's about building the expectations and the commitment of the students and really engaging them. And it's like, I think, Helga, can you go back to the slide with the faces of students? So during the sessions, I think that the night before, the sort of Thursday night, I asked them to send some happy photos so that we could assemble like a nice memory instead of a group photo. And I think it was a bit further. And you could see they sent me very happy photos, which basically to me was a signal, okay, yeah, you know, we are there. There is a positive energy, which I thought it was amazing in this situation. Yes, sometimes in a classroom you may see like, grumpy, bored faces, no matter what you do.
The guy just doesn't like his head, I think.
Yes. And I think the other, I guess the other lesson learned from this experience was also that the students really felt the sense of belonging.
Yeah.
They really sort of, they glued together. So so some of them were then doing their second semester in September, and I could, like, last night we had a quiz night with the students and the lecturers. And by the way, Helga won her team won. And these were the students who I could see they were using their positive, I guess, social experience, which they gathered through that module. So this argument, about difficulties online with group cohesion, I would challenge it sometimes.
That's a question of how many teaching hours are assigned for this module.
So in terms of teaching, it basically starts at 9 o'clock and finishes around 5 with the relevant breaks. But then in the evenings, students would typically send emails with questions, because they work in the night. They basically work throughout the evening, late night. And even under normal circumstances, on Friday night after the presentations, we would go for drinks, and they would tell me that, how many nights they didn't sleep more than 4 or 5 hours. But that's exactly the business-like experience when you're preparing for a transaction.
Sure. Okay, since there are no other questions, it seems, let's move on to the next presentation.